Fishing's a pastime of peace and quiet, of relaxation and reflection. Getting away from the madding crowds. Well, usually, anyway. Well, if you're a footballer, you dream of playing at Wembley. If you're a golfer, you dream of playing in the Open. If you're a tennis player, you dream of Wimbledon. If you're an angler, you dream of Doncaster and winning the £25,000 and all of the credibility of becoming the champion of FishOMania. This is our 13th year. This man has been here every year. He is the face of fishing. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
No, absolutely
Keith
not.
Arthur.
Hi, Rob.
It's the big one, isn't it?
It is, and you can tell by the crowds already here. The place is thronged with people. There's been people coming in since I was here before 8 o'clock this morning, and the anglers are really keyed up. I've been around and spoken to all of them, and they're all really aching to go.
And it's probably one of the most open fields in many years as well, isn't it? It's
one of the best fields. We've got 4 finalists back from last year, 3 previous winners, 9 previous finalists, and the 4 that have come back from last year, 3 of them are drawn the same peg as they won last year. Incredible.
Well, it's always amazing conditions here in Doncaster when we have FishOMania. The lake is looking in particularly good shape today. They've got the oxygenator in the centre. We'll talk more about that later on, but the peg positions are vitally important, Keith.
Absolutely, and what we've seen, the favourite peg was number 5. This one here, that's where Mark Jones caught his fish from last year. There's been a lot of fish there during the last couple of weeks, and everybody was hoping for that draw. It's gone to Attila Shakarej at probably the outside of the field, the Hungarian angler. Kieran Rich in peg 2 is not going to be as happy as he could be, but I quite fancy these pegs down in front of the pub, down here. 13, 14 and 15. We've got Mick Godfrey, Ian Covey in those pegs, both very experienced anglers, and Lee Barrett on 13 is the fishing partner of Mark Jones, last year's winner.
Well, there are a lot of anglers who are green with envy, 2,080 in total. We're trying to get here today. Only 16 have made it around the lake. Some of them have been here all week in their caravans and their families. They've been out very early in the morning on the lake as well, preparing for this, getting their bait ready as well. The lads have got the tackle out, so to speak. They're ready to dip their rods in the water. There's a massive crowd here assembled here today as well. Right, let's open the day officially with our Master of Ceremonies, John MacDonald.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Hayfield Lake here in Doncaster. It's the Tote Sport Text Betting FishOMania 13, brought to you by Matrin Sport and live here on Sky Sports. Well, it's time to get the action underway. So, competitors, it's all in!
Well, this is it. 5 hours of intense fishing. People laugh at me when they say I'm going to spend 5 hours doing fishing on television, but I guarantee, even if you're not a keen angler, tune in for a couple of minutes and you will, excuse the fishing pun, there'll be a few this afternoon, you will get hooked. That's our first international competitor there, Attila Shakarej. This all started, Keith, back in April, didn't it?
It's a long event now. There are 16 qualifiers. The numbers for each qualifier were increased this year to 130 because it was oversubscribed. This year it was oversubscribed by more than double. Absolutely incredible, the demand for tickets for this event. Those people that got their tickets went to their qualifiers. Each qualifier, the angler that won the qualifier match was eliminated from the rest. There was a clamour for the spare tickets coming back.
For those that know little about angling, what are they doing early on, very briefly?
You'll see the anglers with cups on the end of their poles. They're allowed to do that. That's to feed normally loose feed articles rather than balls of ground bait, because you can throw those by hand. That's to feed really accurately, exactly in the spot they're going to be fishing. And what you'll see, they won't just be putting the bait in one place, they'll be preparing 2 or 3 little areas that they can run to, catch a fish from one spot, run to another spot, save one spot maybe up close to the reeds in the edge for later, the bottom of the near side shelf. There's all sorts of places that they'll be looking to get their fish. They'll use the plummets to find exactly the depth, any changes to the contours of the bottom, all fish holding spots. That's what they're looking for. And here's the result of that all-important draw. Peg 2, Kieran Rich, who drew exactly the same peg in last year's FishOMania. And absolutely amazingly in Peg 7, Steve Ringer, also in the same peg as last year. Attila Shikaris is the man on last year's winning peg. In the second half of the draw, Gary Bow in Peg 9, yes, that's right, in exactly the same peg as last year. Mick Godfrey's the man in the hot spot, the peg that's got the best history at FishOMania, Peg 14. Will he make it pay this year? 2 years ago, Neil Machin was second. He's drawn Peg 16, the corner peg. It's never a flyer.
Is this on Peg 2? Is that
Kieran Rich, yeah.
Kieran Rich, first one to bag a fish.
He wasn't very confident with his peg last night. And that's a cracking start.
You're the man that you can recognise a fish from a million miles away. What's he got there?
Tench. Tom Pickering said there'd been a lot of tench feeding in that area. They've not shown at Hayfield for several years, and yet now they're being caught. There's Macho, Neil Machin. Now we've been here and sat here. Well, Dave Wright was very, very fancied on Peg 16, didn't catch a fish. Roger Marlowe drew Peg 16, had fish in his peg all day, caught a couple. Neil Machin's bagging already.
Well, Neil Machin has been here all week preparing for FishOMania, and he's brought a lot of friends along. The fishermen's friends are all out in force today. 40 of them are supporting Neil, and you probably hear a cheer in a moment as he unhooks the fish. Can tell from the hands he's a little bit nervous, isn't he?
He's a top angler, you know. Neil Machin and pole fishing are synonymous. He's a very, very good angler. And do you know something? There's a bit of a coincidence here. Steve Ringer won the final 2 years after being second. Steve Jackson won the final 2 years after being second. 2 years ago, Macho was second. It could be in the stars.
He wants to get the fish in early, Neil, because in 2004, when he was the runner-up, he missed a late fish. Let's go back to Peg 2. Kieran Rich, he was one of the favourites with the bookies. He was 8 to 1 when we started Kieran.
On an open water peg, which he's got a bit of an open water peg, Kieran Rich is a top man fishing the waggler. That's where he's made his name. He's an excellent pole angler, but he's a top man fishing the waggler at long distance. He might have that up his sleeve for later on, but he's looking to catch fish in the margins, because when he's come during the week with Tommy Pickering practicing, they've caught a lot of fish. You can see he's fishing no distance out, maybe 3 or 4 metres from the bank. So that's Neil Machin on 16. You may remember a couple of years ago when he lost a fish at the net. It was foul hooked, and he touched it with the net. And he lost it. He was 1.5 kilos behind them, went on to come second.
Because he didn't have a great deal of time. The Claxton was about to go, wasn't it? He had to hurry.
That's a quality fish too. It's a common carp. Several kinds of carp in the lake. The 3 most prolific are common, mirror and koi. The commons are beautiful, beautiful fish here. They're really well marked.
Well, Neil has his family behind him, wife Joanne and son Ethan giving him support. And like some of the other competitors, he had an early-ish night last night. He's made a fantastic start.
Was he ish relevant there? Ish by comparison?
Early-ish.
Was he in bed before you, Rob Palmer? That's what I want to know. He's really taking his time with this fish, because you just can't afford to lose a fish. And they really have a go.
Taking his time. What will be going through his mind there, Keith? Well, why is he taking so long?
He doesn't want to make a mistake with it. It could be quite lightly hooked. He's not fishing particularly heavy, because he's fishing quite shallow, a little float, quite shallow. I don't know what he's using for bait, probably soft pellets, I would guess. So you can't use a huge hook with that. The smaller the hook, the more tenuous the hook hold. The smaller the hook, the lighter the line you've got to use. The lighter the line the more you've got to persuade the fish rather than bully it. And there it is, he'd like to see that.
I was going to say, massive cheer from the crowd as well. Everybody wants to be on television this afternoon. The anglers, the supporters behind there as well. They've got banners as well. It's his son Ethan behind him with the England shirt on. Alas, I don't think some of the fish want to be on TV, and that's a decent size as well.
That's a carp, probably 4 pounds.
What's going to win it today?
Weight.
Pounds are, yeah.
Steve Ringer said 50 pounds will be a tough weight to beat. Neil Machin is catching the way he's catching. If he carries on like this for 2 hours, he'll have 50 pounds.
The anglers today are no doubt going to be the stars of the show as we concentrate the cameras on them for the next 5 hours or so. But the real stars of the show are the fish. Let's introduce you to them. Now you know who the stars are. Now you know your fish. There will be a test later on. So I expect once one of those fish is pulled out of the water, you to be able to identify it immediately. That was Steve Ringer, easily identifiable. He's been in FishOMania finals more than any other man. And he certainly knows how to land a fish. What's coming out of the water, Keith?
My money's on a carp. He's fishing not very deep. I can't see from here whether he's fishing long or not. I would guess he is, so he's probably fishing in the surface layers for that fish. He started on the bomb. He was very confident at catching on the bomb or the feeder, casting out. He's just on the edge of the ripple from the aerator.
So for those that are not avid anglers, maybe a little bit like myself, the carp are the big fish that cruise in the sunshine on the top of the water. They're all out here yesterday having a bit of sunbathe in Doncaster.
It's not always easy to catch the ones you can see.
Yes.
I've got, there's 40 lads coming from Stoke on a coach tomorrow, so I've got a massive big following behind me tomorrow. So there'll be loads of cheering. Every time I catch a fish, they'll be cheering for me, hopefully.
Well, Neil Machin from Stoke has had plenty of support, and that support has had plenty to cheer about in the opening half an hour of FishOMania XIII. He's been reeling them in. A ton of tiddlers may win it, or it could be just a stack of big fish. We're not far away from the first weigh-in. Bryn Law, he's going to be a busy man if Neil keeps catching the way he has. Bryn is down with pegs 13 to 16, and we'll explain what's going to happen at the weigh-in. Bryn.
Thanks, Rob. Well, I've been doing these a lot of years now, these FishOManias. I've never seen a first half hour like this one. It's been fantastic for Neil Machin. There are 7 fish in the bag already, another one on, 3 have come off as well. He's been catching non-stop. Let's see in a moment what the weight will be like. What will happen is every half hour you'll hear this noise, the klaxon. And that means it's time for the first weigh-in of the day. Let's see who the early runners and riders are in terms of the form. We get the bag out quickly. The guys will organise the pulling the bag out. You see we have stewards on every peg. They pull the keep net out. And as the first drops of rain begin to fall on the lake here, we have forecast for some showers throughout the course of the day. We'll soon see how much, look at those fish in there. 7 fish in the bag. Let's see whether Neil Machin is setting the early pace. One would imagine that has to be the case, but this shortly will confirm it. The stewards get the fish into the weigh bag. There they go. Some big size fish in there. And then as we move around, the bag is weighed by the lakeside officials. And in a moment, we'll have a confirmation of the official weigh-in for Neil Machin. Got to be absolutely accurate. Plenty of life in that bag. There we go.
8 kilos, 220.
8 kilos, 220. A fantastic start to the day's fishing for Neil Machin on peg 16.
As Brinlaw said, a fantastic start. Neil Machin, the runner-up from 2 years ago, puts 8 kilos plus on the scales in a peg that in 2 years has never seen a fish caught. Absolutely astonishing. John Arthur in peg 4, 7 kilos 18. Steve Ringer, 4 kilo 35 off peg 7. They weren't really fancied pegs. In the second half of the draw, there's still a few people waiting to catch. Attila Shakarish must be looking to catch a few fish off that peg though. Last year's winning peg.
I've got lucky shorts and I'll be wearing them tomorrow, and I actually wore them the day I qualified as well, so I'll stick with that one. Apart from that, it's I mean, I shall need luck when I put my hand in the hat tonight. That's the biggest bit of luck I shall need.
Perry Stone, who is a window fitter by day, but a fishing superstar when it comes to the weekend. Currently in second position in FishOMania XIII. Of course, it's winner take all, so second is going to not win him a penny today, unless he gets the biggest fish. Whoever wins gets £25,000. It's the biggest prize in angling, the most coveted prize in fishing. Almost an hour gone of FishOMania XIII. The rain has gone in. The thunderstorm that was threatened hasn't reached Doncaster just yet. The anglers, the crowd, are basking in the sunshine, and so are the fish.
Good fish there, Peter Goodman. That's a good fish. Those big old common carp, they've just got a characteristic way of wallowing towards the net, and if you can get them before they start really having a go, it's good news, isn't it, Jeff?
Oh yeah, excellent news. I mean, the quicker you can net them, the better. The worst thing you can do is have a stab and miss. Oof. Because then they're off at 100 miles an hour and it can be several minutes before you get them back to the net again. Another fish there.
Over to peg 2, and Kieran Rich, who's made a decent start as well. He's currently in 4th position, but he's hoping to improve upon that in the next half-hourly weigh-in. He'll want to get this fish in the bag before we have that Claxton coming up not too long from now.
There are also those, of course, that are always swimming exactly the opposite direction to the way you want them. And you can't pull them, you've got to coax them. There's no point at all in trying to drag fish because you just finish up losing them. It's no good for the fish and it's no good for the angler. You can see the shock absorption. The white is elastic, it's not line, it's elastic that runs through the pole, and that's a shock absorber to the fish so the hook doesn't pull out. It keeps the line tight to the fish, which keeps the hooks in. All the hooks, of course, are barbless, so there's no little nick in the hook to hold the hook in the fish. Right. You've got to hold it. You've got to hold it with the elastic and the shock absorption of your rod or your pole.
So as you say, for a rookie angler, somebody who's not been out there for too long and just enjoys it as a pastime, you don't whip it out of the water. It's like a lady. You have to treat it gently.
You say so, right?
The worst part is that if you do try to rush the fish out and the hook pulls out, then you always end up with the tandle around the top of the pole as well. So that doubles the time. You've lost the fish, your rig's tangled, you can't get back in, quick enough, so that's why it's much better to take it easy.
It's a lovely carp there. That is a good carp. Kieran have been made up with that. It could be big enough to take him into the lead.
It is. That is a beauty. Remember, the biggest fish of the day as well wins you the prize of £2,500. I hope he hasn't got slippery fingers. That one does not want to go back in the lake. Take his time, unhooking what could be one of the biggest fish we're going to see this afternoon. Well, somebody could go away £27,500 richer in FishOMania 13. The man who's leading at the moment with a catch of 8.22 on peg 16 is Neil Machin, who will probably be looking enviously. Will they know what's going on with the other fishermen around them, Keith?
He's not looking that envious, he's just unhooking his own fish. It's fish for fish at the moment. That wasn't quite as big, but Kieran did have a little bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, they'll know what's going on.
Yeah.
They'll all know. They've all got bank runners. They'll all be telling them who's catching what. I mean, the very size of the lake means you can see what's going on virtually every peg. But the bank runner's job is to keep the angler informed.
Are you surprised,
Of course,
Jeff?
Kieran couldn't have a better bank runner,
No,
could he?
but he's got the local man. Tommy lives a mile away from the place. He's a top angler, coach of the England ladies, England international world champion. You know, what bigger credentials do you want? He's only the coach.
I was going to say, how important a bank runner is like a bookies runner, effectively. They tell you what's going on around the track, they tell you how the other guys are doing, how it's fishing, they have the experience as well. And I'll tell you what, Tommy Pickering's going to get 50% of the prize winning as well, I'm told, if Kieran Rich wins. This is Matt Hall, who is on peg 8, one of 3 previous winners in FishOMania. He won it back in 2003 with a catch of just 22 kilos. And that's going to be well beaten today.
Well, it looks like it.
That surprised me that Tiller isn't catching that right opposite Meijin.
Yeah.
It's really amazed me. I thought he would win it from there today.
Early days still.
Well, it's still the only peg we've covered besides
it's early days.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if Neil
Another
puts 8
beauty.
kilo in the net every half an hour, he'll have 80 kilos.
Exactly right, yeah.
Well, that's going to make a difference when we have the weigh-in in a few moments' time. It's going to be a big weigh-in as well. You're watching FishOMania 13 live from Doncaster, the FA Cup of Fishing from Doncaster. The top anglers in the country here today, as are all of the experts. We've got Keith Arthur, we've got Jeff Ringer, and let us introduce for the first time this afternoon Mark Addy, who's the joint head England team coach.
Yes.
And top angler in his day as well. I'm sure he's still out there.
What do you mean in his day?
Well, listen, you're not lakeside here.
Keith told you that.
So tell us about this afternoon. I mean, put it into context for people that are tuning in for the first time that don't know a great deal about fishing or angling. How important is this?
Well, obviously these people, they try to qualify all over England, and when they get to the final, that is the main thing for them first of all. To get to the final is the be-all, and then winning it is the icing on the cake. And to anyone that hasn't been here before, you can see it's a beautiful setting. There's loads of fish today, more than ever before, and I think the anglers are enjoying it. Well, I think 50% of the anglers are enjoying it.
England head coach, is that a bit like being the Sven of the fishing world, is it?
Well, I only get his money, I don't get the girls.
You don't get the other
money,
perks?
Just the money. Yeah, I suppose so, but you get all the say of choosing the England team, who fishes, tactics, you know, everything, same as England football.
Well, you've got 15 you could be looking at today for England. This is one man that you can't select, I'm afraid. His name is Attila Zakeras, the first foreigner to compete in FishOMania. He's from Hungary, primary school support staff worker, loves goulash, could be fish goulash he celebrates with tonight. He came in as a bit of an unknown. He was 16-1 before the draw last night, and as Keith said, somebody put £300 on him immediately. His odds were slashed from 16-1 to 4-1. He's got a decent peg as well in peg 5. And he's had an OK start in his virgin year in FishOMania.
It must be nerve-wracking. The first time, I can't imagine. Jeff can tell you what it's like. But there used to be an event on August Bank Holiday Monday called the John Smiths. It's now got a different name. It's the Evesham Festival. The first time I fished that match, I shook like a leaf until I caught my first fish. The nerves, the crowds are nowhere near as big as this. It's just an astonishing sensation. I mean, what was it like for you, Jeff, that first? You drew a good peg, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It's strange because I didn't really feel any pressure or nerves most of the day until suddenly, with 10 minutes to go, this realisation hit me that God, I can win this. And suddenly I went to pieces for several minutes. I couldn't cast. I had 2 or 3 missed casts. And I turned around and said, I've lost it. And there was that little period when it all disappeared. I thought, I just can't do it. But then, I mean, at that stage there was like 10 minutes to go. If that had happened 10 minutes into the match, it might have been a different story. But fortunately, it didn't get to me until right towards the end. And I think if you haven't been here before, it's a big thing. These anglers who haven't been before will never have fished in front of a crowd like this. They will never have fished with people asking them to comment on a microphone as they're playing their fish. They will never have fished in this pressure.
If I won the FishOMania this year, I've got to give my brother half, so that'll be 12.5 grand gone, and probably my wife and my kids will take the rest of it, so I'll have nothing.
Well, poor old Gary Bow, who went almost 5 hours without a fish last year, he was despondent when he drew the same peg 9 for the 2nd year in a row. Man from Birkenhead on the Wirral. He's left the Open behind to come here to FishOMania. Find out in a moment if he's caught anything. That was one of our 10 half-hourly weigh-in Claxtons, where the fisherman's catch will be weighed. Of course, then they have the aggregate, and the man at the end of the day who's got the biggest catch in FishOMania XIII wins £25,000. Well, the last weigh-in, Neil Machin had edged ahead with 8.22 kilos ahead of Perry Stone. Here is Perry Stone, 7.63. Very eager. Doesn't want his steward to drop those fish. They've been hand-picked, the staff here today. We have the cream of fishing in Doncaster. Centre of the universe if you're an angler, isn't it?
That's right, and there's a lot of care given to the weighing in of fish too. You can see that weighing in mat underneath. That's full of tiny foam beads. It's very soft. It's kept permanently wet, so the fish are never allowed to get any dryness about them at all.
Well, let's go down to the bankside, and the man who has all of the knowledge is Dickie Davis.
Thanks, Rob. Andre's just here. Andre will give us the details once he's got them.
670 grams, 670 grams.
Well, we've got Bill Arthur, we've got Keith Arthur, and this is the man who really matters this afternoon. John Arthur, a debutant in FishOMania. Decent peg 4, that's where all of the fish were congregating yesterday afternoon, but admittedly there were not a lot of people here putting the fish off on television cameras and whatever. He's hoping in his first year to win FishOMania. He wasn't actually too happy with the peg and got 4-1 on him. And John Arthur, after the first weigh-in, was 7.18 and was in 3rd place.
But he's a lot happier with his draw now.
I bet he is.
A lot happier with his draw now. At over 7 kilo on the first draw. We've just seen him put a fish in there. There's probably another 1.5 kilos, and we've seen him catch 2 more fish as well. Yeah.
I was going to say, I've never seen a fisherman leave his stall before, or leave his peg. He's probably
going to get an ice cream, I expect.
Ah.
No, he's looking for some more sections. Just trying to save a bit of time.
I thought he was checking the scales.
And that's John Arthur. Alongside him at the weigh-in is Bill Arthur.
Yeah, we've got to stick together, us Arthurs. Rooting for John here, who has continued to catch very impressively, and he's caught 3 more carp since that first weigh-in when he was running in 3rd place. Just incidentally, they've just weighed Nathan Watson as well a short time ago. Now, the first 3/4 of an hour, Nathan didn't have a sniff, but he's just caught some very nice fish, 4 in a row. Meanwhile, John Arthur continues to make progress. Just how much progress we will find out in a second. John using paste.
580.
6,580. John Arthur.
Well, we won't be too happy with that, but it keeps him up there, and the leaderboard there is the man who was leading after the first win. That is Neil Machin. How's he doing in the second win? Let's go down to Bryn Law.
Thanks, Rob. It's been another busy half hour for Neil Machin, and as you can see, there are a number of fish there. Not quite as many as on that first hole, about half a dozen or so, I think. But some of a good size. And now Neil Machin will be hoping that the figures stack up to keep him at the top of that leaderboard after 60 minutes of FishOMania. Big support for Neil Machin here. A lot of fans have travelled. A coachload have come from Stoke. Come on, Neil. There's a little call in his favour.
7 kilos, 820.
7 kilos, 820. It's another great half hour for Neil Machin on peg 16.
Well, peg 16 has never won FishOMania. Not one of the favoured pegs because it's on the end, but it's a hot peg this year. He was 4-1, one of the 4 joint favourites at the start of the day. But his odds have come down now, Keith Arthur. He's doing remarkably well, isn't he?
I doubt if even Gary Wiltshire would take a bet on him now, you know. He might be generous, but he's not mad. Although what's happening, he's fishing into that corner, he's fishing into the margins, and both Jeff and I think they will run out eventually. Now, he will be feeding another area. He certainly won't have all his eggs in one basket, but the longer he can keep them there for, Jeff. Some people leave that margin peg till the end, don't they?
Yeah.
But we've seen here on FishOMania, normally fish come into the margins in the end. Historically on FishOMania, they don't, do they? Because we think the crowds.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Well, Mark, we've heard Keith's tips this afternoon. Obviously, the Ringer family all stick together. Well, where's your money this afternoon, Mark Addy?
Well, I've had a bet on Steve Ringer before the draw, but I also had a bet on Attila after the draw because I thought peg 5 would be like I said, like Neil Machin's, a corner peg with a tree, and I think that opposite to what Keith said there, the fish will go down the sides later.
You think they'll go down?
I think they'll hide in them pegs later. That's how I just feel about it.
Kieran's in again.
Kieran's in it, and that looks like another good fish as well.
Yeah, I can't quite make out. Is he fishing shallow?
I think he's only fishing. He's only fishing 4 or 5 metres. He's fishing very close on top of that near shelf.
Yeah. Well, if you notice, like you said, Tommy is his coach today.
Yes.
And Tommy has one theory in his head on this lake: 5 foot is where
5 foot deep. That's where the fish are.
That's what he always says,
yeah.
And that's what Kieran's fishing. I think about that, but not very far out.
I'm surprised it's working. To be quite often here, the crowds push the fish further and further out, but if Kieran's catching short.
But if you look at it the other way around, the crowds are there, and the bank, and the reeds, and the fish closer.
There is his mentor. You must have worked with Tommy loads of times, Mark.
Yeah, quite a lot with Tommy. When he fished for England, he was very good. Former world champion. On the Arno, he won it on the Wadley. Good days fishing for Tom.
Now, one thing that Tommy will be able to do today, like you said, they've worked out the tactics. One thing he will be able to do is he'll have a much better idea of what's going on around the lake, and he'll be able to decide when it's time for Kieran maybe to make a move. If he's in touch, he won't change a thing. He'll make sure everything's working. He'll make sure that he's still feeding the right areas. But what he's got to do is just to make sure that when it's time to change, he changes, and you hand all responsibility to the coach.
I'm just going to say, that is his job today. That's the job, to share the 25,000 with Kieran. That's his job, to make Kieran win.
You might recognise this rig, Jeff, because you could well have made it.
Is it Steve's then?
That's Steve with the fish.
Steve wouldn't let me make his
Wouldn't
rigs.
he?
Not anymore, no. Those days are long, long gone.
But I understand you made some bait for him, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
He's got a secret bait, and a little bird told me you wouldn't tell him or Phil what was in it in case they told anybody else.
Well, this is the famous yellow meat, of course. And
yellow meat?
Yeah, yellow meat. We've caught fish on yellow meat, the meat dyed yellow, with a certain flavour on it, for 5 or 6 years now.
I still wouldn't tell you.
I make it, I do it, nobody else knows what's in it.
Even the lads?
Even the lads don't know what's in it.
It's all right, Jeff, we're off here now, you can tell us.
I told you I'd have to kill you.
Now you see that is genius. He's got a big fish on, he knows he's got to keep the feed going in, the pole goes between the knees, the elastic's doing the work, out comes the catapult, in goes the feed. There's no break in that chain of feeding. That's vital. That's the difference between great anglers and the rest of us normal people.
It's experience as well, Keith.
Of course it is, yeah.
You know, he's doing what he loves to do. Yeah. He's good at it. Yeah. He's into a rhythm. He's catching a few fish. It's great.
It's a big fish, this, because Steve don't mess about with fish, I must tell you. He's an expert at landing them quickly. It's a ghosty, that's why.
Yeah.
But they're nasty creatures, them ghost carp, aren't they?
Never give up. Never give up.
Absolutely wild.
It's amazing.
But he's on a fairly light elastic. I discussed this with him last night. And
what a beautiful fish that is, look. That is a stunning fish.
Keith, why do the ghosties fight better than the other carp?
It's the strain, isn't it? It's something to do with this Dinkelhofer strain from Germany. They're just hard fighters.
Dinkelhofer strain?
I knew that
Dinkel something or the other.
I knew that he would know something about it.
They call them dinks, don't they, the people that know?
Yeah, I think you've just made that up, Keith.
No, John Wilson's got them in his lake. Dinks, he calls them. At least I think that's what he said.
Yes. I tell you what, this is a good match.
It's a super match.
A lot of fish being caught, a lot of people in contention.
And Steve Ringer continues to work very hard, back in 5th place at the moment with 8 kilos, 0.79. Neil Machin virtually doubled his money from the first weigh, 16 kilo 04, but he's by no means running away with the match. Look at John Arthur, right on his tail. In the second half of the draw, Gary Bow, who of course was fishless in FishOMania XII, remains that way after 2 weighs. Nathan Watson makes a move in the other corner peg, peg 1. Mick Godfrey gets his name on the board as well. Now there's Steve Ringer with another fish, and Jeff can tell us something about this fish, because I thought he'd actually caught it by default. I thought he'd dropped his bait in and the fish had taken it. Jeff, you know different. It's a ghostie, it's obvious he's seen it.
Yeah, I'm as certain as I can be from what I saw that he's actually mugged it. And when I say mugged it, he's shipping out ready to fish on his 14.5 metre line. He's seen this fish cruising just under the surface, and he's dropped the bait just in front of it, and it's taken it immediately.
Well, this is the man currently in 6th position on peg 12. It is Perry Stone. He's got the whole family behind him. Been here for 2 days with Liam and Laura, fishing for over 30 years, 41 years of age. He only just got here by 6 ounces.
He's actually using a new technique there. You see that bit hanging down? That's called a pull bung, and that's attached to the elastic inside his pole. Obviously, elastic stretches a long way. When you get the fish close in, you want more control. You use that pull bung to take the elastic out the other end of your pole to shorten the amount of elastic, so you can put a bit more pressure on the fish to bring it to the net. Neil Machin remains in top spot, adding 5 kilos to his previous weigh. But look at Nathan Watson. A blank first 30 minutes, he's now in 2nd place, right on Neil Machin's tails. It really is turning into an exciting match, and Steve Ringer has caught plenty of fish that period as well. On the second half of the scoreboard, it's got to be hats in the air for Gary Bow. At last, after a fishless FishOMania and a bit, he's put 4 kilos 78 on the scales in just 30 minutes. Fishing's easy when it's like that. Perry Stone's made a move as well. 9th place, 8 kilos 78. Perhaps what's most remarkable is the fact that after just 3 weighs, every single angler is on the scoreboard.
Matt Hall, who is so determined to get to FishOMania, it took him 11 qualifiers to reach it, but he did so in the penultimate qualifier. He's not had a great start so far. He's currently in 6th position, but he has won it before back in 2003 with a catch of 22 kilos. It's going to be an awful lot more than that wins it this time around, let me tell you that. Current leader at the moment is Neil Machin, who is on peg 6, been catching fantastically, prolifically this afternoon. Already got a catch of 21.89 kilos and showing no signs of letting up so far in the main event here at FishOMania XIII in South Yorkshire.
If I will winning the 20,000 pounds, I think I will fishing more often on the big matches, so I want to keeping myself on the top.
It's our first international competitor in FishOMania. Attila Shekarash is from Hungary. He could be back page news in Budapest if he is successful. Currently in 8th place, he had a good start. He had a decent peg, or so we thought at the start of the day's play here in FishOMania XIII as well. Really couldn't believe that he'd made it here, because that favourite TV show, The Simpsons' favourite actor, Homer.
Top
we have to tell him that that's a cartoon.
Can't argue with that.
Attila the Huddy's known. Attila's having fun at the moment as well. There are some that come here to win. I think, to be fair, he's come here for the experience, Keith, hasn't he?
He's going to be trying to win, make no mistake about it. He's a class act. But fishing in Hungary is very, very different to fishing here. So he's actually had less than 2 years' experience of our kind of match fishing. And Alan was saying just now, the difference between this kind of carp match fishing and the difference between conventional match fishing is huge. They're almost different sports. It's like the difference between a car and a motorbike.
Well, the noise you heard in the background behind Keith was the klaxon, which signifies our 4th weigh-in of the afternoon. So we must have been going 2 hours. How time flies when you're having fun fishing. Neil Machin is the leader, gold medal, and stands to be £25,000 richer if he can continue to angle as he has been all afternoon. Again, the slim young steward is struggling to put the fish on the weighing machinery. Bryn Law, how's it looking?
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, another big bag. You've got to say, Neil Machin has kept catching consistently throughout the day so far. Let's have a look here. Plenty of movement in there, plenty of activity.
Six kilos, 450.
6 kilos, 450. Another excellent half hour, you have to say, for Neil Machin.
Well, that's going to take him up to 27, 28 kilos so far. Of course, they could just be fishing now for the biggest fish of the day. At the moment, that honour goes to Nathan Watson, who had a catch of 4.630. But Dickie Davis down there thinks he has news of a bigger fish down on peg 12.
There is a whopper in here, Rob, as you can see. Let's get it on the scales and let's see if money's on it beating Nathan's fish. 4.630, we're looking for it to beat. Andre, give it.
No, nowhere near it. 2 kilos, 980.
Nope, not close in the end, folks. 2 kilos, 980. He had lost 4 very big fish now. Unfortunately, he'd got a pole out in the far left-hand corner, which the fish have got wrapped around. He's lost 4 big ones. He's got 1 big one. If he can get a few more of those, might just make a difference on the leaderboard.
Of course, they all want to go back to the pub tonight and tell their mates at the bar the fish was this big, the one I caught today. We'll have televisual evidence if it is today. So far, the biggest is 4.63. Bill Arthur, do you have any news of anything bigger?
Well, Nathan might well have had something bigger on, but he's lost it. And in fact, he's probably lost 4 or 5 since he landed that 4 kilos 630 fish. And you have to say that he's a very aggressive angler, and sometimes it maybe just gets carried away a little bit, but it's been paying dividends, and he's catching consistently. Sadly, he's also letting 1 or 2 go consistently, but the conditions are difficult. Tight in that corner, it's very shallow. There is another big fish in there, but I don't think it's going to be on the... It's not going to match that, is the word. Let's see what we got. I'm just being told that Nathan has lost 13 fish so far. That is some going. It could prove very costly.
Kilos, 150.
So 7,150.
And Ringer starts turning the screw. A massive weight in that period, all caught shallow on the long pole. Neil Machin is still plodding on, Nathan Watson is still catching, but Ringer surely is the man to watch. Attila Shekarash had a good period as well. On the lower half of the board, Lee Barrett's not letting the leaders escape. He's there on nearly 12 kilos, and Peter Goodman has come good at last, putting nearly 8 kilos on the scales in that one single weigh. Gary Bowe, unfortunately, has floundered on the rocks yet again. Second highest weight in that segment was Attila. Got off to a very slow start.
It's a very good spot. Steve's weight in that last half an hour was 10.5 kilos to take him into the lead, and this is one of the fish that he caught just a couple of minutes ago. You missed none of the action here on FishOMania, and that's one of the reasons that he could be £25,000 richer in a couple of hours' time.
He's got a spy behind him as well, because in that last shot we saw Lee Thornton behind him with his Pete Goodman as a legend T-shirt on, so he's definitely got a spy in the camp.
Well, that is Steve Ringer, who has won it before. His 7th final, won it back in '98 as a young man. Much more experienced now, age of 30, still a baby when it comes to fishing terms, of course. I'm being complimentary about him because he can hear me. Can you, Steve?
I can hear you, yeah.
Wow, you know you're the leader again.
I didn't know, because it's quite difficult to keep up. There's so many fish coming out down here, it's hard to keep up with who's doing what, but it's nice to know I'm in front.
Only just, Steve.
Yeah.
So don't rest on your laurels.
No, I can see, I've noticed Nathan's catching well out the corner of my eye, so I've got one fish in the net already for the next weigh, which is probably 2.5 kilo fish, so at least I've got a start already.
It's just astonishing, Steve, how the lake's fishing as a whole. You know, 10, 11, 12 kilos is not even on the front page of the leaderboard. It's just absolutely amazing.
I think it's fishing better today than it did in practice, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. And Steve, if I remember rightly, last night you said, I'll take 30 kilo not to go to my peg.
I said 25 kilo this morning.
They're going to pack up now then, Steve?
No.
I can tell you, at the moment, he got a weight of 29.14. That last catch was 10.5. And you've taken over from Neil Machin, who's been leading for the first, what was it, 2 hours of the competition.
It's just whether they're going to, the problem's going to be whether they're going to keep coming. It's just, you never know. Don't want that wind at the minute. I've got a bit of a ripple in front of me. I think that's holding the fish there. But I think if that wind changes, it could soon move them, and if it does move them, you can catch really quick.
Have you had to change your tool, Steve? You still fishing
really.
18 inches?
I've been up in and down in, I've forgotten his name next to me. Matt next to me, he's had a few really, really shallow. Because I switched to like sort of 6, 8 inches deep, couldn't get a bite, went back down to 2 foot and had 2 fish straight away. So I'm just chopping and changing. When they're there, they do seem to be very, very high, and like you're catching them by sort of slapping it on the water, and they're having it as soon as it touches the water.
Still on the caster, Steve?
Still on the caster, yeah. At the minute, I have to say that it's like this is the quietest spell I've had for quite some time, which is a bit worrying, but hopefully they'll come back.
Well, the thinking of FishOMania is that first is everything, second is nothing. First wins £25,000. The second place takes nothing at all home. Neil Machin has had great success in the early 1.5 hours of FishOMania, but Steve Ringer came good in the last half an hour or so. But things can change to and fro as the afternoon progresses. Let's go find out how things are going down there. I think Rob Hughes has some breaking news for us.
Well, thanks for that, and news indeed it is. As you've seen from the score sheet, Mr. Ringer here is now at the top of the tree. Why? Well, quite simply, you can't keep a good man down. He's been here 7 times before, he's won it once, but what's he doing differently that the guys along this bank aren't? Well, he's on the caster. He's fishing about 18 inches deep. He's constantly catapulting bait out, and these fish in the open water, they are moving up in the water. They don't want bait on the bottom. Now contrast that with swim 1 and swim 16. They're very tight in the edge, they're on the chopped worm, and they're getting the bigger fish out. But this man behind, he's flying, and he is constantly catching. And quite simply, it's good angling.
Rob Hughes on the shoulder of Steve Ringer down there, giving us a fishing insight into what Steve Ringer's doing, and I'm sure all the anglers out there will understand every single word that Rob was giving us there. But Keith, translate layman's terms, idiot's guide.
But he's got another fish on there as well. Casters are the pupal stage of the blue bottle. You get between, you get the egg first, then the maggot, then the chrysalis, which we call casters as anglers, and then you get the fly. And he's using the caster. It's a lovely bait for fish to eat because it's crispy, it's crunchy, it's got a good texture to it. Because they at different stages in their life, they sink at different rates. You've got a little pile of bait going through the water the whole time. And what he's trying to do is to keep his feeding consistent enough so there's always some bait in that top 18 inches. So if a fish comes in, it's not going to be disappointed.
Well, Jeff, you proud dad.
Yes.
Have the secret
well, yes.
secret ingredient. What was it you were saying? What was in the secret ingredient again?
I think I've forgotten it actually. I taught him all he knows, of course.
I'll tell you what amazes me with Steve. When you actually watch him fishing, he's aware of everything else that's happening on the lake as well. Although he's concentrating and he's looking at what he's doing, if you watch him, he's glancing around lake continually, clocking what everybody else is doing continually.
He's a hunter, Alan. You know, he's got the hunter's instinct. His eyes are everywhere at once.
Yeah, I do think that you can teach someone to be a good angler. If you spend enough time with someone, you can teach them to be a good angler. You can't teach them to be at Steve's level. I think if you haven't got that natural ability that Alan's got and the people at the top of the tree have got, it doesn't matter how much teaching or coaching you get, you're never going to get there.
Yeah, but you did say that. Natural ability is one thing. And if you look at Tommy Pickering, I always think Tommy Pickering's a really natural angler. But his partner in crime, Dennis White, I always think that Dennis had to work really hard at his fishing. A lot more harder than what Tommy did. And they're both brilliant anglers, but just different people.
People here that may take up fishing for the first time, a lot of envious anglers as well there as well, wishing that they were centre stage, just like Steve Ringer. And the noise you hear in the background is the Claxton, a significant one as well. We'd have 5 hours of continuous fishing here in FishOMania. Of course, the winner takes all, £25,000. That Claxton means that we are now at the halfway mark. Remember, Steve Ringer at the last weigh-in was ahead by just 0.8 of a kilo. He's had heartbreak before. He lost by 4 ounces to Dave Pimlott in FishOMania XIII. That was an awful long time ago.
Remember it well. The top 6 that year were covered by 14 ounces. It was weighing old money in those days, of course. And it was just Steve lost a skimmer as Dave caught one, and it made the difference.
I should never forget it. I shan't, because we were in total devastation after that.
I bet you were.
Total devastation.
Well, at the moment it's two-way street between Steve Ringer, who took over the lead after the last weigh-in, and second place man there, Neil Machin on peg 16, who was leading for the first 1.5 hours. Seems as though the fishing has dried up a bit for Neil in the last hour or so.
Well, I don't know. He's struggling out of that net.
That young lad.
It seems unfair that we have the smallest steward there with the biggest catch, or so it seems. Let's go down and find out what's in that bag. Brindlaw.
Well, Rob, this is a big catch indeed. In fact, it's going to be a double weigh. Look at those fish in there. It's been a very profitable 30 minutes for Neil Machin, and having lost the lead, you just wonder whether he may be able to claim it back. So a double weigh. This is the first of 2 bags.
Nine kilos, 420.
So that's first bag, 9 kilos, 420. We now have more fish to put in. They've got to take those fish back into the water, so bear with us a moment. Those will go back in, and then we'll go for our second weigh-in, the second bag here. We've got another one here.
We've got Steve Ringer's latest catch just going up onto the scales now. Let's just see if we can get a good clear look of the weight on that one when it goes in. It's another good haul for Steve Ringer, obviously in the lead after the last round of catches, just waiting for those scales to set in.
7 kilo, 640.
7 kilo, 640. It's another very good half hour for the leader after the last round, Steve Ringer.
Well, Nathan Watson had that purple patch about an hour or so ago where he really couldn't stop catching, but he's just hit a little bit of a calm period in his fishing, and he just has landed something else which will boost things. Just getting that into the bag now, and we're ready to weigh this. Dave Kent, the NFA official, ready to weigh it. Nathan, just a few moments ago, lost another very nice common carp. That got away, and we're up to almost 20, I think, that have escaped from Nathan, but he's still bringing them in fairly consistently. The kickboxer from Louth in Lincolnshire, who has a very aggressive style of angling, really does go for it, and after a quiet start, he's been making good progress. We'll see what progress he's made here. Another big one there, which they're going to weigh separately. So Dave's going to put this first You're going to do that one separately, aren't you? Yep. All right. The first weigh is... We're going to put the other fish in now. In fact, no, going to take the other fish out. Right, so Nathan is making progress. Let's just see what progress.
7 kilos, 440.
So that's that first. And now there's 2 more to come, so they'll put those back in the keep net down there. And there's 2 more to come in there. Those don't look too bad, do they? A couple of... And it could be an awful lot better for Nathan, though. He's just going to be kicking himself, I think, with the number that got away. But he's getting tremendous support as well. Lots of friends from Lincolnshire over to support him. Not travelled far. What's this second weigh then, Dave?
Second weigh is 6 kilos.
We'll get there, but this is another productive weigh-in for Nathan.
6 kilos, 160.
Well, I think I can confirm that he's got a weigh of 13.6, total weight now 40.04. Neil Machin with a last weight of 13.75, just a little bit more, and he's taken the leadership, we believe, at 42.09, and he's got more in the net now. We'll be confirming all of the weigh-ins, of course, around the lake. The stewards are bringing the fish in and weighing them, and we can confirm how everybody is doing in a few moments' time. But it's developing into a 3-fisherman race between Neil Machin, Nathan Watson and Steve Ringer. We'll confirm for everybody who's waiting with, again, excuse the pun, bated breath, how they're all doing. He looks as though he's, again, a paragon of concentration. Neil Machin, who was leading for the first hour and a half, had a quieter half hour, but had a great catch just a few moments ago. We confirmed it with a steward that it was 13.75.
What we can say, for those people that are uninitiated in kilos, that on our rough pencil and paper addings up in the studio, that Neil Machin and Nathan Watson have both had 30 pounds in the last 30 minutes fishing. That is match fishing of the highest order.
This is Neil Machin, who's got another fabulous looking fish there again. He could be edging ahead again.
2.5, getting on for 3 kilos, that fish. You notice how the anglers very rarely touch the fish now. It's just hold them steady, take the hook out, one net inside the other. When that net's in the water, just tip the fish out gently so it can just swim off. Oh yes, Mr. Ringer, take that. 13 kilos 75 in one weigh for Neil Machin, and Nathan Watson has matched him fish for fish. Steve Ringer didn't have a bad half hour, but he's gone from first to third. Peter Goodman continues his climb up the charts as well. And Perry Stone, after another good half hour, has dropped back in the last half hour. Mick Godfrey seems to have run aground on the same rocks as Gary Bowe. David Forrester's also falling back. But look, everybody's caught fish. It's a proper fishing match. It's a big ask to catch these 3. And out of those three, I mean, as much as I don't want to say it with Jeff here, the way that things are looking, Nathan and Neil are both fishing into corners away from the other anglers. Nothing the other anglers do can have any effect on what they do. But with Steve, he's fishing in open water, and we've just seen Peter Goodman get 13 kilos, and he's changed to fishing shallow like Steve has. Down there probably sharing the same shoulder fish.
Of course, remember the significant thing is the man in second place, the man in third place have both previously won FishOMania. Neil hasn't won it before, has he? No, he was the runner-up in 2004, missed it with the late fish. He hates it when we mention that. But they've all been there. They all know what it's about, which could be significant.
Remember what I said earlier? When Steve Ringer won it, he was second 2 years before. When Steve Jackson won it, he was second 2 years before. Neil Machin was second 2 years ago. Peg 1 here, where Nathan Watson's fishing. He's fishing up into this corner, and there's a line of sedges along there leading up to another tree.
He's in second position.
He's in second place. In first place, Neil Machin sitting in that position there, and he's fishing up into this corner here, almost a mirror image of the two pegs. They're almost identical where they're fishing.
Does that mean the fish are heading for the shade?
There's shade, as you can see, we can see from the picture there, there's a bit of shade there, but mostly it's away from the crowds, and if you notice there's big trees there. Attila's had a couple of good rounds as well. He's fishing to that willow in corner peg 5. Perry Stone is fishing into corner peg 12. The fish are running for sanctuary.
And most importantly, as Keith said earlier, you're fishing your own water. You've not got anyone else competing with you. You're fishing an area that no one else can share.
John Arthur's had the biggest fish out of peg 4. What we think is potentially the biggest fish, fishing again into a corner.
One of our innovations in FishOMania XIII, we try to take it on a notch every year, is to go down and to have a word with the anglers as they studiously look out over the waters. We have, of course, spoken to Steve Ringer down there, and when he took the lead. Sadly, Perry Stone hasn't taken the lead, but he's a good sport. Perry, can you hear us?
Absolutely. Hi there.
We realise you're not doing a great deal at the moment because you didn't catch anything in the last half hour. Sorry about that.
That's no problems.
What's going wrong down there?
I've lost 4 or 5 fish. There's 2 poles that normally got bails attached to them, and I've lost 4 or 5 fish. I've got another one on now. Ooh,
go for it, son. Go for it.
They don't go the way I want them to. This one has.
Don't lose this one.
No, actually, what's happening is the fish won't come out of the rushes. I'm having to go into the rushes, and when I strike, I'm having to pull them hard, and they're bolting rather than just gently lifting them and making them swim away. And consequently, the harder you pull them, the more they pull back. I think I've lost about 6 or 7, and 2 of them were quite big. But that's the way it goes. And also, I mean, I went off to a steaming start the first half an hour, and then unfortunately the sky cameras stood on the platform, and I stopped catching. So, but that's part of the game, I suppose.
Well, now we're talking to you, so you're having a bit of a look. So come on, give us this masterclass. Don't lose it, for goodness sake, but talk us through it.
Ease in the net.
That's a good job there, Perry. Well done, mate. It's Keith here. It's noticeable that the corner pegs are doing well, as you say. You've had a little bit of intrusion, but there's no doubt that having that corner to yourself with no other anglers able to interfere with what you're doing is playing a major role. I mean, you couldn't have sat there thinking, oh, I'm going to have £30 halfway through to make £35 and not be in the top 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess this year would be an extraordinary weight. I knew you was going to want quite a lot, purely for the fact that the aerator's on. I believe that's made a total difference, you know. The fish have been in the corners for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I stood on this peg day before yesterday, and I just had a funny feeling I was going to be in this area, and it was solid with fish. So when I drew it last night, I was more than happy, and it seems to be they have definitely run to the corners. Normally they're quite happy to be in open water, as you know, but today, thankfully, they seem to be in the corners. So I just got to keep going.
I must tell you, Rob, that's over and above the call of duty. Tying a hook while talking to us. It's something that we would never expect. Well done, Barry.
Absolutely amazing.
No problem.
Barry, thank you very much for joining us. The best of luck in the next couple of hours, and hopefully you can bag a few more. But we should keep talking to you.
I'd like to say thanks to Robin and Nolly. They've made us all really welcome this week at Hayfield. It's been absolutely fantastic. And all the best to them. Keep it going, chaps, and see you soon.
Well done, mate. Well done. Enjoy.
Right.
Well, the camera's now trained on the two men who are in first and second place. Neil Machin, who's had the lead for, was it 4 of the 5 half-hourly weigh-ins. Nathan Watson, who's creeping up. And look at that smile on his face as well, Nathan Watson. He was the winner back in 2002 when he was just 22 years of age. Won the £25,000. And I'm not saying he's tight, or his mates aren't saying he's tight. A lot of them have gone out, they've blown it, they've been to the casinos, they've bought fridge freezers for their mums, they've been on holidays. Nathan hit in an investment fund and tells us he's now worth £47,000. He could be investing even more. Maybe he will splash out a bit on his chums as well. It's really getting exciting here. The current leader, by the way, is Neil Machin, who regained the lead in the last half-hourly weigh-in. His steward has quickly headed onto the bank. Bryn Law will tell us what is in that massive catch.
Thanks, Rob. Well, you heard the big roar from Neil Machin supporters. We're going for big fish weight first. Let's have a look at this. We're not going to quite be over the 4.6, I believe we're at thus far, is it? It's a good fish, but not that big. So it's just over 4 kilos, the individual fish. But now the bag, and you'll see in there are big fish in this bag. And again, it looks like we're going to have the double bag weigh on this one. Let's see if we can get them all in. First bag. This is the first of 2 bags to be weighed. Emphasise that, the first of 2 bags to be weighed. And it's too heavy, so we've got to go and take one out. So there in itself, an indication for you that a lot of fish have been caught by Neil Machin. So we'll try again. It goes over 10 kilos. They have to take some out and try again. That's just what we're doing now. This is the first bag weight.
£8 kilos 950.
8,950, just short of 9 kilos, the first bag weight. And now they're going to weigh from this bag. Bag is on its way back. Bag is on its way back for the second bag weigh here. Here we go. We're almost there, folks. Here we go. This is the second bag. It's getting the fish out of one and into the other that's the problem. You'll hear great excitement on the bankside. There's another one to add to it. Look at the size of this catch. Tremendous for Neil Machin and all those backing him here. Let's have a look here. May even yet be too heavy. This may yet be a 3-bag weigh. I've never known anything like it. Too heavy. We've got to try. It's gone over. That means it's gone over 10 kilos again. So we're going for the second bag weight, and then we'll have a third bag to be weighed as well. Shut up, he's fishing, comes the message from his number 2. Rightly so, perhaps, but there's great excitement here.
£8 kilos 200.
8 kilos 200 is the second bag. And we've got to go back. Working hard, the guys up here at the moment. They've got to take those fish, put them back in the water, and then bring the official bag back to weigh again. So we've got the third bag to come back, and already the total is climbing and surely pushing Neil Machin out ahead of the rest of the field. Here's the third bag coming back now. So this is the third and final bag, but quite sensational stuff from Neil Machin up on peg 16. He has been fishing tremendously well throughout the day. Third bag.
3 kilos 700.
3 kilos 700 on the third bag. I tell you what, I'll let you do the maths. Work it out. How much was that in total? A lot of fish.
Certainly was, Bryn. We'll have our people work on that kind of thing in a moment and confirm exactly how much Neil Machin had in the bag. Now, the most anxious man around Hayfield Lakes at the moment must be Nathan Watson, who was narrowly behind in second place before that weigh-in. His fish are being weighed now. Let's go to Bill Arthur.
Yes, across this side of the lake, Nathan and his supporters looking across the lake to the noise, knowing that something's going on with Neil Machin over there, and just hoping that this latest bag from Nathan Watson will at least keep him in the hunt at the moment. He knows that he really has got a battle on his hand, because the indications are that Neil Machin is certainly the man to beat, and it's still being productive for Nathan. Another good haul after that 13 kilo 600 bag last time out. Let's see what he's got this time. I don't think that's going to match Neil Machin, although it is going to have to be another 2 bag weigh for Nathan Watson. See what he's got this time on this first bag.
Eric is 8 kilos 330.
8,330 for that first bag, and now that just leaves a couple more in there, I think. So just one more, and so many have got away for Nathan Watson. And he's got a really bullet a gate style of angling, if you like, and might not be to some people's tastes, but it's been effective this afternoon, and certainly his supporters appreciate it. Here we go. This is the second weight.
Is 3 kilos 350.
350.
This is absolutely crazy. Neil Machin has just put 20 kilos plus nearly 50 pounds of fish on the scales in 30 minutes. That's enough to have won 2 FishOManias on its own. And Nathan Watson's not letting him get away. This is just phenomenal angling. Perry Stone with 21 kilo 97 in 9th place could have already won 2 FishOManias at least, and Ian Covey in 14th has got enough to have won FishOMania 1996.
If I won 25 grand, well, it's already spent. It's all gone. I've already got a partner in Mark Jones, last year's winner. He gets 12.5 for a start, and the other 12.5, well, it will soon be spent. Pass on what, but it'll go.
Lee Barrett, who is on peg 13, that's won it in previous years, but I think I'm safe to say it's not going to win it this year. At Hayfield Lakes, the undoubted leader at the moment is Neil Machin, over there on peg 16. Down at the bottom, wasn't one of the fancied pegs when the draw was made last night, but boy, Keith Arthur, has it worked for him.
It's just completely incredible. We've seen good anglers, super anglers, blank on that peg. He's here on peg 16 in this corner, and he's fishing in towards this willow tree along a long line of sedges there. He's put his bait in carefully. He's looked after the swim. He had another little change and went out here for a while, rested the inside line, and the fish came back. And boy, did they come back. I mean, he is just catching like there's no tomorrow. He really is. It's unbelievable.
I hear a noise. That's a klaxon. That means that we have one of our 10 half-hourly weigh-ins. Normally, Neil Machin has the biggest bag. Not sure what the news is over the last half hour when it comes to Neil. Remember, the last half had a massive weigh of 20.85, just ahead of John Arthur with 17.35. And indeed, Attila Zekerash, the Hungarian, also had a big weigh. Normally would be enough to take them to the top of the leaderboard, but there's no catching this man. That poor guy is going to sleep well tonight, but Stuart's had to carry his
That
fish.
is at least as much as last time. And either that or he's not had his... No. Not had his
OK, you are the face, you are the voice of fishing, you know everything. I want you to estimate what is in that bag. Give me an idea.
I'm going to say it's slightly less than last time. 18,740.
Well, we shall see.
Well, that's
no, it's going to be way over that, because that's got over the top. It's going to be 24 kilo.
We've got to split the split even the bags up again. Let's go find out. Let's get a man who's close to that. Almost caught that fish then, Brynlaw.
Well, let's have a look this time.
7 kilo.
Stay still, everybody. Look at these, up and down, here we go.
7 kilos and 50.
7 kilos 50, first bag. Now we've got a team, an army of stewards down here helping us out now to speed the whole process up. Look at this, slick, smooth, and what's the weight?
9 kilos 440.
9 kilos 440. Another huge catch for Neil Machin, and again he's pushing surely further and further out front at the top of the leaderboard now.
Just proves Keith Arthur knows his onions and his fish as well. Correctly guessed, it was about 17 kilos. We'll confirm that in a moment. Let's go now to the man in second place. Nathan Watson's bag is about to be weighed. Down there is Bill Arthur.
Nathan still catching consistently, still 1 or 2 getting away consistently as well, which might come back to haunt him. But looks like another good bag for Louth's favourite son today. Big support from Lincolnshire for Nathan Watson, running second at the moment. Also hoping for a biggest fish prize, although I think John Arthur's overhauled him in that respect, and he might even have, apparently the word is from further along the bank that John Arthur might have another big catch in his keep bag as well. We'll find out about that in a little while. This is the first bag. 6,770 is the first weigh for Nathan Watson, who's furiously chopping some more worm as we speak. And to think that first 3/4 hour of the day, first 3/4 of the hour, Nathan Watson didn't catch a thing, and then all hell let loose, and he hasn't looked back really. And here's the second weigh. What was that first one? 6,770 was the first. Yeah, yes. Yeah, if it held on to the ones that got away, then Neil Machin might not be so comfortable in the lead. But Nathan Watson still challenging. 6,770 was the first weigh. And what's he got in this second bag? 5 something. 5,900. So 6,770 and 5,900. And that's another good total for Nathan Watson.
FishOMania XIII, 16 of the top anglers around the country, as we said before, over 5,000 trying to enter, 2,080 were successful, 16 from the 2,080 have made it here today, and in truth, only 3 stand the chance of maybe winning it at the moment. But of course there is still the chance of winning £2,500 for the biggest fish of the day, and there have been some very big catches.
Because Kieran started early, didn't he? Got to a real flyer, fishing about 5 metres, chop worm, not too far out, just chop worm and casters in the cup. Then we found Macho catching them, ghost carp, fantastic ghost carp that is. And there's been some wonderful fish caught today, as well as big fish.
Well, this is Nathan Watson, who had that big fish earlier in the day. It was at well over 4 kilos, wasn't it?
4 kilos, 630. That.
Now that's interesting, because that fish wasn't in the mouth.
That was on the fin.
It was on the fin. Nathan's lost a lot of fish, and I suspect a lot of those fish he's lost haven't been in the mouth. Really? I suspect he's got that many fish there. He's lifting and lowering all the time.
Now
every time the float goes up.
That is a creature.
Oh.
That's the one, we haven't had the weight of it yet, but we think it must be close. That is a creature. And there's Macho, he's trying to bite his way out the net, that one. Perhaps he'll be able to buy him, treat himself to a new landing net now, won't he? What we could really do with FishOMania is some new experts. We were all predicting the corner pegs as being no-hopers. Neil Machin in 16 with nearly 80 kilos. Nathan Watson in peg 1 with nearly 65 kilos. And Nathan has lost more than enough fish to be way out in front. Another corner peg, John Arthur in peg 4, is lying third. What do we know? And the perceived wisdom, the pub peg, number 14, Mick Godfrey sitting there on 22 kilos, 75. That's not a bad weight by any manner of means, but this isn't an ordinary FishOMania. It is an extraordinary FishOMania.
Let's go down and hear from one of our expert reporters, Rob Hughes.
Well, I'm down now bankside behind Neil Machin, and There's a little bit of drama down here, as there always is with FishOMania. Now, accuracy is always important in angling, and this is an absolute perfect display of it. He's in again as we speak, and literally the guy's been fishing the same line for the whole way through the competition. He's fishing a dinner plate, and Keith, nice dinner for you here, chopped worms and casters in exactly the same spot. He is looking at an area no bigger than a dinner plate, and it's constantly going in the same spot, and as you can see, it's working for him. However, 4 bites before this, the previous 4 either didn't connect or they fell off. That might indicate that the fish are getting a little bit wary about the noise in the area. They're not quite feeding as heavily as they were before now. Certainly he's getting the bites, but when they're shy, getting those perfect hookups is a little bit more dangerous, and there's always the risk that the fish might fall off. It looks like he's going to get this one in, and it looks like he's going to extend the lead just that little bit more.
I was going to have my lunchtime sandwich then, but it kind of put me off. What is the magic? I noticed this year, and I gesture not for people that are just tuning in for the first time to FishOMania and never thought they'd actually find fishing on television fun. They've banned cat food and dog food this year, I hear. Is that right?
Yeah, there's been lots of stories about the good and bad effects that they have. I think one of the big problems is someone gets successful with a particular bait, and if it's an unnatural bait, suddenly people start going berserk. They'll take 20 tins of sweet corn, 20 tins of cat food, 20 tins of luncheon meat. And the lakes have a problem disposing of the waste. Even if the fish eat it all, the amount of high-grade waste they pass through is very difficult to dispose of. Worms and casters are natural. They biodegrade in minutes almost. I mean, you chop a worm and at the end of the day there's nothing left except a bit of goo because it's rotted. That goes into the lake. What doesn't eat actually fertilises the lake. It improves the quality of the lake rather than reduces the quality of it.
It's working. Neil Machin.
That's a proper creature as well, that.
Big fish again. Big fish.
It didn't look that big and it swirled in the edge. That's a beautiful meal.
Absolutely magnificent.
That's a stunning fish.
Tell you what, biggest fish of the day, £2,500, £25,000 for the winning. Could be getting more than the 25, could be £27,500. It does appear as though it's going to be a two-way street leading at the moment. Neil Machin, 79.43 kilos, 15 kilos ahead of Nathan Watson. To be fair, he's been fishing with a smile on his face this afternoon. He's won the £25,000 before. Neil has lost the £25,000 before in the final half hour, but it would be some kind of disaster if he was going to do it again this year. And he's got another fish in his net. We heard the klaxon in the background, and they're waiting for us. Go away, the fish. Tell us what's in the bag.
First,
this is an individual
fish weight. It's underneath there, and now we'll do the total weigh. But as you'll see, with that big fish, we've already had one to go with. There we go. We're going to try. Again, we've got this situation where this could be over 10 kilos, so we could be on the second bag weigh.
7 kilos 100.
7 kilos 100 is the first bag weight. Now we've got the second bag weight. 7 kilos 100, and add this on for your total.
4 kilos and 50.
And there's another 4 kilos and 50 on top. Can anybody catch Neil Machin now? I wouldn't think so. He's flying.
Well, that's, I think, just over 11 kilos. It's probably going to take him up to about 90 kilos. We'll confirm that in a moment. Looking enviously and hoping that he's got some lead in the tummy of the fish in his bag is second place. Nathan Watson, winner in 2002. When he won, he had a total catch of 39.6 kilos. Almost got double that already today. I wonder what he's going to have accumulated in the previous half an hour.
It's a big fish.
That's Steve.
You know,
that's your Stephen.
But, you know, if you could get 20 more of them in the next hour.
Yeah, it's not much to ask, is it?
No.
Nathan's having a real tug of war with the fish on peg one, and he wants to get it in before they put the fish on the scales, and it's a proper fish. And as we know, Nathan gives them no quarter. When it gets in the landing net, quick transfer to the keep net, quick transfer to the weigh net, total on the board.
He's got to catch them big, and he's got to catch them quick, and he's got to catch them furiously in the final hour or so of FishOMania. I tell you what, outside, Keith, that sun's got in, and a bit of dark cloud as well. The conditions are going to change.
It's very humid. It's turned. I think the cloud has helped today. You know, we've had unbroken sunshine for a week.
Rocket's landing there.
What's happened there? He's smiling, but he's got a snap
landing net.
Yeah.
Hole.
It's his landing net hole, I think.
It's his landing net.
He's got the fish in the net. He's gone to lift it, and the pole snapped.
He's tried too big a scoop.
Do you have a spare pole? Are you allowed a spare landing net?
Strange enough, I always carry one. Not everybody does, but I always carry one. Usually because somebody will go without one, or they'll break theirs and can borrow mine. But
have you got yours in the car? Because he might well need it if he's not got a spare one.
I think he's trying to net this fish now with just a stub of net.
Well,
I used to bring my tackle rod in case somebody didn't turn out.
That's a good shot, that is, look.
That's a great shot.
No,
it's a huge fish.
It is a huge fish.
Well, no wonder, Keith, that the pole snapped there. That is an absolute whopper. Look at the smile on his face. It could put him back in contention, you know. You're going to do some repairs there to the fishing net. This was the moment when it snapped.
Oh, with his elbow. He's gone for the scoop, and there's so much resistance on the water when you try and move that net fast enough through the water. Luckily, I've got tennis elbow. I can't make mine go that fast, but that's where it's broken. It's sheer water pressure. It's like a demolition derby in Nathan Watson's peg, but at least he's continuing to put fish on the scales. He's the only serious challenger now to Neil Machin, way out in front. That weight is over 200 pounds. And it's a great round of applause for Gary Bow with 23 kilo 14. He's got over 50 pounds after a blank last year.
Welcome back to FishOMania XIII. It's a two-man race. A difference between them of 15.5 kilos.
Nathan's with the fish now.
Yeah. And Neil's watching.
Trying to get it in before the next klaxon goes.
Yeah.
If you look again, Nathan's really bullying that fish again.
Yeah. It's the only way he knows. He's not going to change now.
Neil's in again.
And Neil's in again.
Yeah.
You notice how Nathan's got the pole right behind him there? That locks the elastic in the top. So the elastic can't go any further. We saw Perry with that pull bung taking the elastic out. If you can get the pole at 180 degrees to the elastic, then that jams the elastic in the top and increases enormously the tension on the fish.
But that shot essentially shows the difference between the two. Yeah. You've got Neil calm and smooth and everything's slow.
It's like playing the piano compared to bashing the drums, isn't it?
Yeah. Nathan's on his feet with the elastic at full stretch.
Skiing uphill, skiing downhill. That's the difference.
Klaxon is due any... Oh, there we go, any second now.
It's a proper fish as well.
Neil Machin could really have done without having his worst 30-minute session as the penultimate one. Just 2 kilos on the scales. Nathan Watson is seriously on the case.
It's very close now.
Neil, if anything, he's just got to slow down even more, as he's just got to be more precise and more accurate with what he does.
We think Neil's got 2 fish in the net already, don't we?
He has.
Yeah.
We know he's got 2.
Yeah. So Nathan really needs to be probably 3 or 4 fish in front of him this half hour.
Yes.
And mentally as well. For Nathan, the clock will be whizzing around, won't it? He'll be losing time, and for Neil, the clock will be standing still.
Yeah. You see what he's just doing there? It's almost incredible. We've talked about how he bullies fish and how maybe that's cost him a few fish this match. He's just tightened up his elastic. He's just taken the winder bung out the end of his pole and wound another turn of elastic around to make the elastic even more taut.
And that means
he's going to pull him even harder.
Either that or he'll be water skiing.
Yeah.
Well, I can confirm from the bank side that Neil Machin has nothing in the net in this last half hour. Just getting news from down there. However, as we know, Nathan got that small one, and a few moments ago, I think that's a grin on his face. It could be a grimace, but I think it's a grin, and I think this is the reason why. This is Nathan. Remember, he needs to make up the margin of 8.15 kilos. He's straining.
That's effort.
I think that's fish's foul.
That's effort.
Look at the lines going backwards and forwards. That fish isn't in the mouth, I don't think.
No, it's near the tail, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how you catch him, it's catching them, isn't it?
Well, it does matter because they fight much harder when you don't get them in the mouth. But you mustn't deliver. Obviously, foul hook fish count unless you hook them deliberately. You mustn't try and foul hook them. It was in the tail.
Yeah,
so
just saw him get the hook out of the tail.
Yeah.
He's done well to get that out because
decent size. That was just a couple of minutes ago, and that gives Nathan a chance. Neil doesn't have anything in the bag. Remember, 8.15 kilo lead, but there's something on the end of that pole.
This is live, and that's a fish.
Nathan's landing one as well. He's just stood up to land another fish.
This could go to the wire.
And Nathan's just netted another.
Really?
What is going on?
Oh dear.
The world's gone mad. There it is.
Well, that's Neil with the fish, not the biggest, but
that's a kilo.
It's got to the point where they need to bag as much as they can.
One more, Neil, one more fish.
In the final 20 minutes or so of FishOMania. This is his rival. This is second place Nathan Watson. We know he has one fish in the bag, and this is a second fish as well, simultaneously catching.
It's a bigger fish.
That's a decent size.
Yeah.
Well, that might be 2 kilos. Yeah. So now I reckon that Nathan's advantage in this spell is probably 3.5 kilos.
Yeah. He needs to make up 8.
Yeah.
Sorry,
he needs to make up 8.
He needs to make up 8. I reckon he's got
a difference of 5 the way things are looking.
Now, I just heard the crowd behind Neil say, one more fish, Neil, one more fish. Yeah. Now, whether they're thinking one more fish will be enough, because I don't think it will.
Well, Nathan's just caught 2 in very, very quick order.
16 minutes and counting. 16 minutes remaining. FishOMania XIII. A number of years it has gone right to the final seconds, the final fish.
It always shocks us, doesn't it? Always shocks us.
Well, those two guys enjoying themselves. They'll look back, no doubt, at the Sky Plus tonight and watch it back. And
Nathan's in again.
Which one will be the winner? Nathan is hooking in another fish by the looks of things. Neil looking at it vacantly. Neil Machin has almost got the cheque for £25,000. We're into the final quarter of an hour. Clock is ticking away. He's lost it before. He's been here all week. He's prepared diligently to take the prestigious title, the most prestigious title in the angling world. And this was him, it was a couple of minutes ago.
Jeff and Cookie have been watching Nathan, and you tell us what happened, Jeff.
Well, Nathan lost a fish. He's gone in, he's waited a minute or two, he's hooked another fish which looked like a proper fish. He's shipped down to like 3 sections, and all of a sudden the fish has run away from him, and he's pushing back out again as quick as he can to stay in touch, and it's broke him. He's come back in, it's broke the rig. So not only has he lost the fish, he's now had to put a new rig on. So he's lost another 2 minutes. In the meantime, while all that's going on, Neil's had a fish. And that's a double blow to Nathan.
We reckon that, well, Steve Cook reckons that Nathan needed 3 fish. He needed 3 fish to catch up to Neil, and he's lost 2. That means he needs 5 fish to catch up to Neil. Yeah, it was a big fish. It was a big fish.
If you remember before, just before he tightened his elastic up, and probably in his mind he thinks he's going to need to bully his fish to pull that weight back, where realistically he doesn't. He just needs to take his time and get the fish in the net, because one fish in the net is better than one fish lost in the net, which we've just had.
Yeah.
It's the slow dance. Well, this is Neil Machin, who has been magnificently consistent. The man who lost it with a missed late fish 2 years ago, the runner-up that year, 7-1 at the start of play yesterday. He couldn't get any money on him at the moment. No. He has got another fish on the end of the line. And this could be the champagne moment.
I've trained you, Rob. What size is this fish? How would you describe it?
I would describe this as about, well, I know it's probably just under a 2 kilo.
No, no, would you say it was, what kind of lump would you say it was?
It's a carp.
It's a proper lump.
It's a proper, it's a proper fish, as you keep saying.
That's a proper lump, that is. It's not a proper fish. That's a proper lump.
That is a winning fish.
Fill the check-in.
That is a gold-scaled fish.
Fill the check-in.
Nathan's not had another fish since he changed his reel. Although he's in now.
Nathan needs 4
I think
fish.
Yeah. Nathan needs 4 fish. And how long have we got?
In
8 minutes?
Not that. No. 6 minutes.
He heard the cheer. It disturbed him for a second, but
it's a little perch.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Not what he wants.
No.
Called a wrong 'un. Well, as he heard the cheer from Neil Machin's peg, this was his reaction. A look of loss. Hey, you never know. They may have to rub the ink out. He may have to be pencil on the signature on that check. He may yet have got something in the net to give him a chance. He has 20 seconds to go.
There's the classic. He's lost it panicking. Neil Machin has hooked up.
He's lost the fish.
He's handlined the fish.
15 seconds to go in FishOMania 13, and one has slipped off the rod of Nathan Watson, and he now concedes, surely, the title to Neil Machin.
Well, it's as though it was all over. What a day.
Well, a gripping finale as ever, a wonderful sporting event, and as always, it went to the final 30 seconds.
As it happens, I don't think that fish would have been enough anyway.
No, it wouldn't have been.
But, and I don't criticise him for what he did with that, because he had to get it in the net.
You never know. He's got a smile on his face because we have some of the spectators have already launched themselves into the lake. He's going in soon as well, once we've gone through the formality of the weigh-in. Right, let's go down to Bill Arthur, who can give us the news.
Well, the difference between the two of them before this weigh-in was 8 kilos 15, and Nathan needs to make that up, but I don't think it's going to happen. He's had a really unhappy last half hour. So many have got away. It's been the story of his afternoon, and I think he's going to find himself a distant second. Not too distant. Let's see what this final weight is.
$490, 7 kilos, $490.
Enough. The winner of FishOMania 13, version 2006, £25,000 richer, is Neil Machin.
And there it is for all to see, a phenomenal performance by Neil Machin. That's like running the 100 metres in 8 seconds. I think it's a record that'll last a very long time. £2,500 for John Arthur's biggest fish. England Ladies International Claire Dagnall is ladies champion, and well done to Matt Gibbs for taking the junior event.
To receive the cheque for £25,000, the magnum of champagne, and most important of all, the title of Tote Sport Text Betting FishOMania 13 champion, Neil Machin!